Hey there, beautiful people. It's Dina, bringing another daily dose. This morning I was getting ready for church, and I was just sitting there thinking about the journey that I've been on and, who I am today compared to where I was just even a few years ago. And so I've been a special needs mom for 14 years now, but God has really done the majority of the work in me over just the last few years. But if I look back over the 14-year journey, and even prior to that, you can look back at yourself and just be almost in awe or in shock of where you were before to where you are now. So even, you know yourself better than anybody. You know what you've gone through, your deepest pain, your greatest joys. You remember all those moments. Even your spouse or somebody who you're closest to doesn't truly know you the way you know you. But God knows you even deeper than you know yourself. But when I look back, even the times before I had Gracie, before Doug and I had Gracie, our daughter with special needs, the person I was before that was completely different than who I am today. I mean, I have the same personality. I look the same. I'm still an outspoken person for the most part. I always call myself an introverted extrovert. Like, I can definitely be somebody that's on stage and I have a big personality, but I also like to refuel by myself. I'm not somebody that needs a lot of people around me. I like quiet time. I find it a vacation when I'm all by myself and, I don't have to be entertaining anybody. So I kind of like both. And I find that a lot with public speakers that, how they refuel is being alone. And, so they're introverted in their lives, but in their personal lives, but in the world, they can be extroverted. And that's kind of how I am. That hasn't changed. What has changed is how I view my situations. What has changed is how I view myself. I spent years hating myself. I spent years thinking I wasn't good enough. I spent years thinking I was ugly, years thinking that I was just, nobody would accept me. So I had to jump through all these hoops, and put on the mask so that I would feel like I was accepted. Now, again, most of this was my own thoughts, the lies that the enemy had planted that I believed. But it was a reality to me. It was a reality to me. It didn't matter what somebody said. So I was thinking about this journey of from going from that place, from somebody who was very insecure, operating in this victim mentality in pride, really struggling to try to find her own identity, to somebody who is, I feel, empowered today. My situation hasn't necessarily changed. I'm still walking through very hard seasons, in my life. I'm still walking through health issues. I'm still walking through, the constant day-to-day responsibilities of being a special needs mom. And now I've added on top of that being a busy content creator or entrepreneur. My husband and I still struggle through marriage issues, just like any other couple, and so I find myself still navigating those, but who I am and how I navigate that is very different. How I see myself. So then I started really thinking, how did that happen? How did I go from feeling defeated and in despair every day? So when you get yourself in despair, and that turns into depression, and then that turns into this hopelessness. I used to call that the dark night of the soul. I just felt like there was no coming out of that. I felt alone. I felt the pressure. I felt all of that. And so when you go from that to being in a place where you're still operating in all those difficult times, but there is a peace that surpasses understanding, or there is a quick renewal. You can come up, and find your space. I come up to my office, and you can get yourself back on track from where before no matter what I did, I couldn't get myself back on track. I was constantly, I've said before, feeling like I was drowning. I was treading water and coming up for air. Where did that go? How did I go from that place to where I'm at? And I was thinking about this, if I were to talk to somebody else or help another mom, how would I explain that? Because for me, sometimes it's hard to even really grasp that. So when we're in a really deep, dark situation and it's painful, you don't think that you're going to get out of it, but then years pass, you remember it, but the pain isn't there. Kind of like childbirth. You're birthing your child and it's extremely painful, but as soon as the child is here, you don't really remember the pain. I mean, you can remember it, but you're not remembering it like it was when you were actually going through it. And then there comes a point where you really don't remember much of that at all because you're enjoying your life with your child, or, that just kind of an example where in your deepest pain, when you're outside of that, you don't necessarily remember all that. But it also is part of the becoming of who God has created us to be. So when I was looking at that, I looked at it kind of like a deconstruction. God is creating this new person in you through your circumstances. And I've said this many times on this channel. God may not remove the situations, but he will absolutely get you through them. You will find that you're a better person having gone through those situations. Now, I would never, wish on anybody, not even my worst enemies, some of the things that I've gone through or some of the pain that other people go through. But we all will go through trials. The Bible says that, Jesus said, in this world we will have troubles, but take heart because I have overcome the world. We are going to have troubles. Not if we're going to have troubles. We are going to have troubles. So it's in that process of the becoming. So if you look at God as like the master creator, the crafter of who you are, sometimes when you're an inventor, you have to look at something and then you have to take it all apart. You take all the inner workings of that and you pull it all apart so that you could see how it works and how to improve on that. So God will take you through situations and he literally deconstructs you. And that's what the trials feel like. That's, you're being pulled apart. It's painful. And he's creating this new being, this new, creation that he has. And he pulls apart and he's pulling all the pieces out. And it's the most painful season of your life. But then he starts to reconstruct you and put you back together. And you start to have these new working parts. You have a new spirit. You have a new cadence about yourself. You have a new confidence about yourself. And you find yourself walking through situations that you had before prior not being able to handle it. And now you can handle it. And you're like, how did that happen? You don't even realize that God has been doing something behind the scenes the whole time. It's not even necessarily something that you're doing. It's not all these tips and tricks that I can give you. If you do this, A through B, then you're going to be this. There are things I could share. There's certainly things I did and things I stopped doing that have contributed to this. But all along the way, it was God that was developing something new. He was creating something new through my mess, through my mistakes, through my old mindset, through the lies that I was believing about myself. He did not take the situation away. He didn't take the trials away. He didn't take the struggles away. He helped me to walk through them. And then at the other side of those trials, and some of them, like I said, I'm still going through. On the other side of that, I recognize wow, I am not the same person. Or I can handle this now where I wasn't able to handle that before. Or even if I am triggered, I know how to get myself out of that situation and back into being who I choose to be now. So it's in the becoming of who God has created you to be. So I look at my trials now as a blessing instead of a curse, instead of something, because God used it to help me to be who I am today. I am a better wife. I am a better mom. I am a better friend. I am a better Dina because I allowed God to break me down and to deconstruct me into building me into something else. Now this, I believe, is kind of an ongoing life process. I'm not by any means saying that I have arrived at all. I still struggle. I'm still very much a flawed human being and I make mistakes every single day. But I am better than I was before. And that's what I focus on. I am no longer that broken person in despair that just feels like there's no, reason for living, that I want to end my life. I was in that season for so many years and I could not see through that. But that was during the deepest parts of my deconstruction. And then I would say the one thing that I, would give myself credit on is that I never walked away from God. I felt like I was walking away from myself, there were times I wanted to walk away from my family, but I never walked away from God. I continued to keep pressing into him, even though I didn't know what I was doing. And I felt like I was drowning. And I felt like I was, I was almost ashamed of who I was to him, but he just helped me very gently work myself through that. And so I just want to encourage somebody today that if you're in the deconstruction process and it feels messy and it feels painful and you feel like it's never going to end and you feel like you're never going to be able to get through those emotions or the tough seasons or the tough marriage or the health issues or the financial issues, you will. I promise you, you press in, God is creating something new. He is doing things new. He will finish what he started. He will never leave you hanging. He's never going to leave you or forsake you. He's always been with you. He's right by your side. And he is doing a miracle work inside of your spirit, inside of your soul, inside of who you are as a person and your character. And he's creating a new identity. Just trust the process. Don't give up in the middle of the deconstruction. Wait and keep pressing in until he redefines you and recreates you into something new. I'm telling you that it's a beautiful journey. Even the painful parts I would never change now because of who I get to be today. So I hope this is encouraging to somebody not to give up. If you're in the middle of the reconstruction and you're starting to see that for yourself, share a comment. Let somebody know, what that's been like for you. Thank you so much for always supporting this channel and being a part of the family. Share this with somebody that could really use the encouragement. I thank you for just supporting me and everything I'm trying to do to help build up special needs moms or moms going through an extreme parenting situation. I just hope that my story will, in some way inspire somebody else to not give up and know that they're not alone. And so not only does the creator of the universe he is madly obsessed with you. He loves you. He's doing a work in you. He will finish what he starts. And I just promise you that it's going to be good. It will be good. He has a future for you, and it is good. And I love you, and I want you to have an awesome day until we see you again. Bye.